Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Agri-Food Conversations. This is brought to you by iSelect Fund, the Van Trump Report, the Yield Lab Institute, and Family Farms Group. My name is Tom Bunn, an associate on the iSelect Fund Ventures team, and I'm excited to welcome you all to our discussion today. As you know, Agri-Food is all about driving innovation in food and ag. Each month we highlight a specific theme, and this month's theme is inputs and biologics. And on today's call, we are joined by Dr. Chad Brummer, CTO of Termir and Harpe Bioherbicide Solutions. Harp is an agriculture biotech company focused on providing natural and sustainable herbicide solutions to expand and provide new opportunities for organic agriculture while reducing and replacing synthetic chemical use in row and specialty crop, commercial and consumer markets. Each of you knows companies are more likely to succeed with the right network of customers, talent, investors, and advisors. We've invited you to this call because you are some of the smartest, most talented people in Harp's market who are potential customers for their products and services. You built a company similar to Harp's, or you are a sophisticated business person or ag professional who understands their market and the challenges and opportunities that they may face. Before we get started, we have a quick poll question to get a better idea of who we have on the line today. So please take a couple seconds to answer. And while the poll is running, a few process comments. We are not soliciting investment in any way whatsoever. This presentation is to provide information to help Harp find customers, mentors, or other strategic relationships that can help them grow their business. Secondly, you are all on mute. However, you can use the chat window to ask a question at any time. And we will have a carved out section of time devoted to Q&A, during which you can type a question into the Q&A pane, or you can raise your hand and I can unmute you. And finally, this presentation is being recorded and will be available for replay. So with that, I am pleased to introduce Dr. Chad Brummer, the CTO of Harpe Bioherbicide.
Thanks, Tom. It's a real pleasure to be here today. I'm trying to get to the first slide. My name is Chad Brummer. I am the CTO of Harpe Bioherbicide Solutions Incorporated. We're dedicated as a startup company to create and provide natural and sustainable weed management solutions for organic and conventional agriculture. As we think about the agricultural crop protection chemical space, herbicides take up the largest portion of that, considerably more than any of the other individual sections, whether it be seed solutions, insecticides, or fungicides. We also see that the herbicide market continues to grow year on year, and towards the future, we see that to continue across crop protection product segments. Now, as far as the biological market is concerned, it's growing at a much more rapid pace, 2 to 3 times the rate of the traditional pesticide industry. It's seen very steady growth over the last 4 to 5 years, doubling in many cases. There's a lot of consumer demand in this space to use biologics as a way to produce food and for growers to implement that into their production systems, and not necessarily to displace all synthetic or what we consider maybe traditional crop protection solutions, but to be used in conjunction. Now, in order to keep pace, the biological market must continue to look for efficacy improvements and further establish the regulatory systems to help fast track some of these new products into the market space. When you think about some of the bioherbicide trends, and particularly as they're related to Harpe Bioherbicide, there's a lot of different obstacles and opportunities. However, the one thing that's very glaring is that across all the other biologics that are currently used in the market, bioherbicides are only at 38 million. Now, when you think about that, it seems a little bit low, as herbicides are one of the critical inputs that growers use in every acre and every hectare across the world. But there's a lot of limitations to bioherbicides. Many are microbial, fungal, or bacterial based. A single host in order for them to generate, good efficacy, thereby giving a very narrow weed spectrum. So weed control can be very susceptible with biologics to different environmental conditions. The formulations tend on the side of being slightly unstable, and there can be real difficulty in the fermentation in the dose form processing when it comes to these biologics and fungicides, biologics or bacterial and fungal progenitors for the bioherbicides. So there's a particular area of growth that we see in the bioherbicide market. And this is one of the reasons why we see that. This is a field shot from the Mid-South, not too dissimilar from what many people have seen for the last maybe 10 years now. This field is being taken over by Palmer amaranth that's resistant to glyphosate and several other herbicides. And it's a very deep impediment in order for growers to be able to grow their crops, whether it be row crops, specialty crops, or perennial crops. So there needs to be some solutions for this. In particular, we're not just seeing a single weed come out like Palmer amaranth or the pigweeds to be a problem. There are 515 unique cases of herbicide-resistant weeds globally. And for better or worse, in this case, much worse, the herbicide industry as a whole has not come out with a commercially available new herbicide mode of action in approximately 30 years. I believe it was in the mid to early 80s when the HPPD inhibitors were last discovered and then thereby released into the market space. So there's a real problem out there, and I believe Harp has some very solid solutions to this. Now, along with resistance, there are a lot of other factors in terms of these weed control problems that are affecting not just growers, but society as a whole. There's significant economic losses that growers are seeing, as well as the food supply chain system from herbicide-resistant weeds. 33 billion in the U.S. is an incredible amount of loss just from herbicide-resistant weeds. The societal impact, we're seeing a lot more of a push again towards those biologics, things that can be certified as organic, sustainable solutions. The customers are demanding this for their food, and it does not seem like the industry as a whole has necessarily brought those solutions to market, particularly again from a herbicide standpoint. And the other part is the regulatory pressures. Anyone who has been in the process or in that system of working with regulatory agencies at the federal, state, or global level knows it's a very difficult process. It takes a lot of time and a lot of money. And there's got to be some ways, particularly from, again, the biological standpoint, where we can fast track some of these products to get them into the growers' hands and start to tackle these weed problems. But one part that people may or may not be familiar with is that the European Union has also stated that they want a 50% reduction of synthetic pesticides by 2030. That is a very tall order, and it's going to take a lot of innovation and a lot of solid products to be developed in order to meet that. And this is where we come to Harp, or Harp Bioherbicide Solutions, of which I'm the Chief Technology Officer. Harp Bioherbicide is a platform of herbicides, novel natural biologic herbicide portfolio, again, derived from different plant extracts. This is a new chemistry class, and we have new sites and modes of action in these products that have not been labeled or utilized before in the crop protection market. The other thing about Harp that's, I think, very unique and exciting is because it can be certified as organic, because they're biologics, plant extracts, we have the ability to label and register these as organic products, as well as use them with current synthetic products, thereby bridging a gap from having organic only products and synthetic or traditional crop protection products. So Harp is going to be able to address the needs of farmers, society, and also help to ease through that regulatory path by being biologics and natural products. Now, Harp, as I pronounce it, seems a little bit strange. That actually comes from quite some time ago when I was in a meeting and a few weed scientists were talking, of which that is some of my background. And they were talking about how pigweeds and some of these other similar weeds were like Medusa, that every time you would cut off one of the snakeheads, another two would grow back. And so it became one of those interesting ideas that we should probably name this product, because it does an excellent job killing pigweed, as Harp. And Harp was actually the sword that Perseus used to kill Medusa. So a little bit of classical education sprinkled into some of our science and agronomics here. But that's the genesis of the name Harp, and the idea that there are some uncontrollable weeds out there that we know now that we can control. So why a bioherbicide, in particular why Harp? In order to have a biological product in the herbicide landscape, it has to work. And that's where we see some of the disconnects that come in with some of the biological herbicides that have previously been in the market, where they are very safe, but they're not terribly effective, or they're inconsistent. Whereas the synthetic herbicides have developed a reputation of being highly effective in many cases, but not necessarily as safe as the public would demand. Well, Harp Bioherbicide fits into that niche very well, where it's highly effective, works very quickly, and is also, as a natural product, plant extract, considered very safe. So we can get some wide spectrum weed control, EPA determined as a minimum risk pesticide to help us fast track into the market. It can be certified as organic, so an organic grower could utilize this tool in a few short months from market entrance. Very flexible, so Harp can be used alone or it can be used in combination to help the existing synthetic herbicides pick up the weeds that they're missing. There's a lot of exclusivity around Harp and the patents that we've filed in terms of mixture, use, formulation, regulatory, very limited time and involvement with EPA, also an expedited global regulatory package. We've spoken a little of the sustainability by using natural products that come from plants, plant extracts. We have the ability now to grow these plants or have growers grow these plants and then extract the products from the plants that we need to make Harp. A true circular economy for a crop protection product, which is very exciting. And that leads to the economic impact. A competitive priced, highly effective product that's going to go out into the market and be something that people can use in a short term. So a couple of just quick pictures, sort of action shots of what Harp looks like. Another unique part of having this herbicide package or portfolio is that Harp can be used as a pre-emergent product. In the left panel here, you can see some laboratory work that we did looking at the germination inhibition that takes place when Harp is applied to seeds. So the untreated versus the treated with Harp there. And then on the right side, a post-emergent version of Harp, where we have an untreated and then next to it a treated with Harp slide, which took less than a day in order to desiccate and kill all of the weeds in that frame. So a very exciting product with a lot of different uses across both the pre-emergent and post-emergent sort of traditional areas of crop weed control. So a little more about the safety and sustainability. The thing about Harp that we knew from the beginning was it had to be safe, it had to be sustainable. Harp components and extracts are found in many of the different things that you use in daily life. We worked with a third-party regulatory group here in the United States to do some scoping to ensure that the components in Harp would be considered minimum risk pesticides. So both the actives and the inerts would pose little to no risk to human health or the environment. We have a bee here in the slide. We know how critical bees are to agriculture around the world. And so making sure that we have something that's considered minimum risk is important, if not essential, in order to bring a new product to the market. EPA has exempted these formulation products as well as Harp from review, and they can be used alone or as a natural alone or with the synthetic product. When I talk about the platform or flexibility of Harp, this is a listing of all the different areas where Harp can be utilized. So from the home and garden market, the professional turf management, organic, utility, row crop. And one of the things about Harp, again, as it is used alone, it can be certified as organic to be used in an organic situation, which is providing a new tool for either pre-emergent or post-emergent weed control, which is very exciting from the organic side, as there are a limited subset of herbicides that are effective. From the professional turf management, there's a real push not just for effective weed control, but also because there's a lot of human impact in those areas, something that can be considered safe with relatively short reentry intervals. And also from the home and garden side, to your local big box store of Lowe's, Home Depot, or others, in order to pick up Harp, use it, around your house and feel completely safe that it's going to be effective, and also a product that your family can be around. We've also investigated both utility and right-of-ways, which have a real need, again, for effective weed control. And it's where we look at the replace, rotate, and reduce, where Harp can be used to replace some of the synthetic chemistry load, rotating some different products in and out, and we can reduce the total load of synthetic chemistry being used while maintaining effective weed control with multiple effective sites of action in order to be a good steward and manage the herbicides. So a little bit about Harp itself in the sites and modes of action. Harp is a very fast-acting contact herbicide. It does have some limited movement inside of the plants once we make the treatment, whether it be foliar in a post-simulation or activation, or in a pre-emergent applied to soil. Multiple targets and functions are under attack after Harp is applied. And primarily, these are going to be in the plant plasma membrane and the organelle membranes inside of that plant cell. And when we have multiple locations where the herbicide is going to attack the plant cell, we greatly reduce the ability of having herbicide resistance develop. Now, that doesn't mean it could never develop, but it means that Harp is formulated from the beginning in order to look forward to be a good, sustainable product solution. The loss of cell integrity when the plasma membrane is compromised is going to cause the plants to wilt very quickly. Photosynthesis and other energy production in the cell through the mitochondria are disrupted, and that leads to a very rapid cell death and necrosis of the plant tissue. So this Harp overcomes the current and defends against the future of weed resistance. As I mentioned, not necessarily used alone in a production sense for conventional agriculture, but in a real integrated pest management approach for weed control. A couple of action shots for you of Harp. Here we have the untreated or not treated on the left. In the center, we have 6 hours after treatment of Harp, the control in the center, and then Harp treatments flanking on the left and right. Very fast necrosis and burn of those weeds. 6 hour control like this is very similar to what we see. And then on the far right, we have a gap where we had sprayed Harp over 21 days after the treatment. These are Palmer amaranth and other pigweeds, broadleaf signal grass, as well as some crabgrass in these plots. So some of the key weeds that are out there that Harp is highly effective against. A little look in here at a pre-emergent benefit for Harp. Similar site where we made a treatment to the soil. Here's Harp 3 weeks after treatment on the left, doing an excellent job controlling the weeds that are there. And then on the right, 4 weeks after treatment, we do have some grass breakthrough, but excellent control of the broadleaf weeds. 3 to 4 weeks of quality control from a pre-emergent stand is something that the organic market really just does not have right now. An effective product that can reduce the amount of tillage, hand hoeing, or working with human labor inside of those plots to remove the weeds. We also mentioned that Harp works very well with existing chemistry. We'll show you a couple of pictures now of one field shot here looking at a desiccation simulation in R6 soybeans. We did a comparison using glufosinate by itself. The 16.5 ounce per acre rate is about 3/4x of what the desiccation rate of glufosinate would be. And then glufosinate at 3/4x rate plus a much lower rate of Harp. Oftentimes when we tank mix with these synthetic chemistries, we drastically drop the rate of Harp and still increase the activity overall, still controlling the resistant weeds. In this case, you can see at 21 days after this application, there is some regrowth in the glufosinate treatment, but the Harp tank mix still looks very good, has dropped a lot of those weeds off, the leaves off of those soybean plants. So a very good tank mix partner with glufosinate. And a greenhouse example right here of tank mixing with glyphosate. I don't believe the glyphosate will go away anytime soon, at least in production in the United States. And so being able to tank mix Harp with glyphosate in order to, in this case, increase the time, or reduce the time it takes to control these weeds is really important. We have the control on the far left, 32 ounce rate, which is approximately 1.25 pounds of glyphosate. Glyphosate plus Harp in the next cell, the glyphosate at 22 ounces, so a reduced rate, and then Harp plus glyphosate. So we still see the rapid control. The glyphosate is still working. It's just working much better in conjunction with Harp. So if, our technology platform that we have a series of them on here that we're moving through proof of concept and into the early development stage. We do have an organic formulation as well as what we consider a synthetic or tank mixing with synthetic product formulation that we're working into advanced field trials right now. The EPA approval for the Organic product is expedited, very, very little EPA oversight over that. And then a true expedited uh, a registration for the synthetic Harp formulation. And we have a series of other products that are also in development. The premix non-selective, that would be premixed with a synthetic herbicide, as well as a series of next generation formulations, which are building off the data that we've currently collected over the last several years for an organic product for pre and post emergent, as well as a new next generation Harp product that would utilize for tank mixes with synthetic chemistry. And that concludes a short presentation of Harp Bioherbicide and Harp Bioherbicide Solutions. My name is Chad Brummer. My email address is on there, and Bill Buckner is our CEO. I wanted to make sure I included his email address as well. I think I'll turn it over to Tom if there's any questions.
Great, Chad. Thanks so much. That was very interesting, and you made a ton of progress. So kudos to you. I guess the first question I'll ask is around, how would you like to leverage the attendees here? What's the best way that those listening currently and those who listen retroactively can help you guys out?
Sure. If anybody has any, additional questions or comments or thoughts, you can reach out to myself or to Bill. Be happy to answer all those questions. And anybody just wants to talk further about what we're doing with Harp Bioherbicide, a chance that we may be able to work together with different people from grower company distribution side. We are a growing startup, and we're always in the zone of raising capital and making connections with people to help us move our products, one step closer into the market space.
Great. So to the attendees, to ask a question, the best way to do it is to raise your hand, and I will allow you to talk, unmute you, or you can also go to the Q&A pane and type a question in directly to Chad. But Chad, I guess another question to get us going here is, I guess talk a little bit about competition. It's interesting to see the bioherbicide market much smaller than the other sectors of the biological space. I guess talk a little bit more about what you attribute that to and who you're up against from a competitive point of view.
Sure. There are quite a few competitors in the market space. If you look on any given website or even go to a local distributor, most of the companies have some different products that are certified as organic that they can use for their weed control. The predominant amount of weeds that are controlled, by these products tend to be very small, tend to be broadleaves. They're burning products. They are usually soaps or some other types of natural products or extracts that tend to be more in the burning or desiccation zone. And for us, we saw with Harp the ability that we do get some translocation. We are effective across broadleafs and grasses, so we can position ourselves with, being a more effective partner, with the grower in the market space. But also because that pre-emergent control is there, it really kind of changes the game. It's kind of difficult to find a product that's certified organic in the marketplace that has soil activity.
Great, thank you. Abhay Singh asks, how does the economics work compared to synthetics?
So in terms of the economics, I assume that's a question surrounding, cost of goods and sourcing. Harp is a natural product, so we source it from, a series of plants that we have the products extracted from. The great benefit of Harp is a lot of the plants that we use for the extracts are already commercially grown across the world. So there is an existing supply chain, and there's an existing way for us to access these extracts, and it can help keep the prices down. Along with that, as the circular economy that I mentioned, we absolutely see that Harp could be the plants grown by certain producers, in different parts of the U.S., Canada, across the world, and then those products would thereby be put back into the supply chain, and the product, becomes a lower cost, more stable product. The synthetic chemistry still has to be synthesized, and there still has to be building blocks, whether they be from oil or other areas that are brought into the chemistry system. This is just changing the game a little bit and saying that a farmer could grow 10 acres of Harp precursors versus oil being, pulled out of the ground and moved across the world and going into an extraction plant.
Got it. Thanks, Chad. Any differences in geographies you're seeing, or where do you do you see this as potential for global impact, or how do you think about geographies and efficacy within those geographies?
It's absolutely a global play. If you have weeds in your field, Harp is a product that can be utilized in order to get rid of those weeds, whether it be conventional production or organic. Across the world, we're seeing some of the worst weed problems in the United States. In Australia, there's a lot of herbicide resistance that's built up in the UK and the EU, as well as in South America. We are putting our research program together to go and test in those areas and address it. And to date, most of the research has been done in the United States. We've been lucky to go basically from coast to coast where we're doing our research trials. We haven't seen any impacts based on latitude, soil type, or geography to this point. And that's why we're doing the testing, to continue to reinforce that this is a product that can be utilized, deployed, in a short time frame and be highly effective. If it doesn't work, across all these different locations, it's not nearly as effective.
Got it. Thank you. Looks like an anonymous attendee asks, are there handling and storage safety issues with Harp?
We haven't seen any of those yet. We went back into the supply chain to see where the products are coming from before they get to us for formulation. By far and away less issues than you would see with many of the herbicides, fungicides, and insecticides that are synthetic chemistry.
Got it. Howard Zimmerlin has a question. Howard, I'm going to unmute you right now, and you should be unmuted. Howard, are you with us? Howard, are you there? I think you are unmuted, Howard, if you want to ask your question. Or perhaps you can type it in the question pane. Great. Well, any other questions for Chad while we're waiting on Howard's potential question? Give it one more second here. Okay, well, Howard, if you have a question you want to follow up with Chad, please do send him an email. I want to thank everyone in attendance for joining us today. As a reminder, we do host these calls every Thursday at 3 p.m. Central. So please sign up for upcoming webinars, and we will hope to see you next week and in following weeks. And Chad, thanks so much for joining us, and we hope to talk to you soon.
Great. Thank you so much. A real pleasure to be here today.